Hello, this is Laura Jane, and this is my first talking video. I'm sharing a card that I'm using the Altenew stamp set Lotus and some of my favorite coloring tools. Starting out on mixed media vellum surface paper. It's 140 pounds. Okay, we're going to ink the solid images first in the lightest shade and then coming in with a darker, making a mask so that we can then come back in and stamp the reflection. As you can see, I took that solid stamp, placed it on the mask, and then flipped it so it was upside down as if it were in the water, and then just stamped it in a light shade. It was frosty pink. Okay, next we're going to stamp the leaves. Use the Morning Frost first on the solid image. Came back in with Frayed Leaf. And for the frayed leaf, I just simply got the edges inked up, just kind of partially inking that. I did not want a full coverage of that green. For the outlined, I used Forest Glade. And I just wanted to say the stamping part for this kind of card does not have to be perfect. As you can see, I had needed to go back in and stamp that leaf over there. And if it didn't match up, not a big deal, because I'm coming back in and coloring quite a bit with those ziggies. Okay, now we're moving on to the reflection. Using the salty ocean, just swiping through and then covering it up with a picket fence. And then the brushed pewter adds a nice shimmery silver. Okay, wanted a little bit more pink for the reflection, so I came in with more of the detailed stamp, the middle one, and inked it up in cotton candy. Used a little bit more blue and then some more of the pewter. Again, reworking the solid image, just inking up partially just the edges for the reflection. Just to get more pink. Some more of the silver or the pewter. And then more of the salty ocean. Next I come in with Moon Rock. Yeah, for the kind of the ripples on the water, and I used just the very edge of that mini ink pad. Then go over the top of that with a pewter stain. Just soften that up a bit. I felt like I lost some of that pink on the little bloom, so added that in down at the bottom. Took a water brush and softened the black lines just a bit, real quick. This technique is really forgiving, just kind of scribble it in. Alright, now we're getting ready to grab those ziggies Okay, sorry, no, we're going to do the background wash for the sky. So I inked up an acrylic block, took the water brush and just scribbled those in. Just kind of imagine, I'm always thinking of clouds somewhere in there, so it's not a solid. And then adding more of that color down in the water too. Right. Now we're going to put the green reflections in the water. Just lightly tapping that in. Don't want a lot of color. Remember, it's a reflection. Okay, now with the zigs. Just laying in some color. I first came in with pink flamingo. Just quickly laying in some color and trying to leave some white space for each petal as a highlight. Ah, I'm sorry, that was almond. Ha! Almond pink. I will be putting the names of each marker at the top for reference. I'm coming in with a darker pink and basically following the lines of the detailed stamp from the Lotus set and going over those sketchy little lines. It's where I decide to put the dark layers. You can see I'm just using kind of quick feathery strokes, just trying to use the very tip of the marker. Not being too, not overthinking where this goes at this point, but trying to remember to leave that white space on each leaf. I think that's important. Grabbed a lighter color. Look like the almond again. Okay, the pale rose. Now we're getting more into the darker shadow areas. This we're paying close attention to where the shadows would be, adding more detail in that area. Getting real light lines for the separation of each petal. Again, trying to get more of a feathery stroke going. I like to move around from petal to petal so there's some dry time in between each layer. Sometimes if it gets too wet, then it just kind of glubs out. So it is important to let the colors dry in between. That's why I move around quite a bit. As I'm sitting here, I see there's where I kind of double stamped the detailed image of the bloom. When I say double stamped, it wasn't directly on top of each other. There's an extra line there. I like that because then it gives me a definite line where there should be in a highlight. Plus, I am just not really good at matching up the layers. So this is my solution. I just color and use that double stamp look for placement of a highlight. It works. Pink flamingo. Okay, I like this color. It usually ends up in most of my pinkish or red coloring. It just adds a nice light, uh, kind of a light reflection that's coming in. Blends well with both the dark and the lighter colors. Basically placing that over the top of all my other darker shades. Adds a hint of yellow to it. Sorry, I didn't catch what that color was. I'm thinking it's a pink. Ha! Of some kind. A peachy pink. Moving on to the almond pink. I took that and just added it into the pink section in the reflection, just kind of scribbling that in. Alright, moving on to the leaves. This is pale green that I'm starting out with. Just kind of laying down some color focusing on where, excuse me, where the shadows might be. Next, using mid-green. Now for the leaves here, really trying to just use the very tip of that brush, getting a real fine line for the veins of each leaf, and then also the underside. Moving on to the olive green, trying to work a shadow in underneath that tall bloom on the stem. Okay, I'm not happy with the way the green is going on these leaves, so I decided to come back in with my ink pads and just partially ink up the solid image and laid down some really good ink, and I was much happier with it after that. I moved back in with the pale green to help kind of feather out some of the color. Now normally I go to the leaves, and that's usually my thinking time when I'm waiting for the petals to dry, and leaves are kind of seemingly easy for me, but these were giving me trouble today. Wasn't very happy with the way they were working out. Grab the mid-green again and trying to feather in some more shadows. It looks like the pale green dragging some color down into the reflection of the water. And then the cool gray. Cool gray is a really good mixing color for me. You can pretty much put it on any other shade and it just kind of helps blend it out. Dragging some green stems from the large blooms. Kind of imagining where that would be in the reflection. This is light gray. Again, another very good color for blending. Grabbing that blue stain and scribbling in some more water reflections. And then my water brush just to soften the edges again. Deep green, going even darker. That's a good thing with these zigs. You can always go darker to add more detail, add more shadows. Still fiddling with those green leaves. Light gray to pull that color out and away from where the shadows would be from the petals onto the green leaves. Instead of plain water, I like to use a lighter color of Zig to do some blending. Water just seems to get too messy for me. I do like how the Zigs work with the pewter stain in the water. Okay, moving on to dark pink. Getting serious with the shadows here in the petals. This is where I have to decide exactly where that goes. Sometimes it works out. It's really fun to see the petals kind of emerge and take shape as you add that depth of the darker color. I really like how that petal's kind of dipping down into the water as well. I also find it is good to move on to another petal, another bloom, while the other is drying. Good to remember that dry time. Back to the green. And the gray. And a touch of pink. Now this is purple. lighter pink. Just because I felt like some of the highlights were really just too big, so I wanted to lay down some softer pink and come in with some gray. This is brown. Brown for the deepest shadows. Trying to not use too much of it on that one petal. It just got a little carried away. But it happened. Trying to fix that dark spot of brown. And in the end I just thought, oh, we'll just leave it. And now using the black. White picket fence, and then the brushed pewter. Went in with the Arctic and worked a little bit more on the reflections in the water. I wasn't happy with the center, so I came in with its Uniball Silver gel pen. And I called it done. So there you go. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section below. And have a great day.